How many of you have gone through a Steam sale or a publisher sale and you load up on tons and tons of great games? For the price of maybe one game, you leave with like 15 great titles that you've wanted. You start playing them, you enjoy it, and then a new cool game comes out. It's the latest multiplayer title. All your friends are on it. And you know what? Even though you've got plenty to play right now, you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to buy it. I want to play with my friends. I'm going to hop in. And you do. Some time goes by and that momentum wears off. And for whatever reason, you don't go back to those sale games that you bought. All of a sudden, there's a new hot game coming out that all your friends are playing. And you know what? Okay, I'll get back to these games I bought, my sale games, but I just need to play this new thing with them. And before you know it, another sale rolls around. And even though you've got so much on your plate right now, so many games you knew at one point you wanted to play, you're already thinking about all the other games that you want to buy on this next sale. And before you know it, your Steam library, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch library, whatever, is full of great games that at one point you really wanted to play, so much so that you bought them, but you just can't seem to find the will to go back and play them. Maybe it's the time, maybe it's this weird guilt that you have. It feels like you're leaving all of this value on the table. And I want to talk about that today to try and absolve some of that guilt and maybe give you some tips and just general advice on this backlog. Because even though many of us have a giant backlog, many of us don't have a good plan for tackling it or a good plan when we approach a new sale, like for the games that we do want to put money and time into. And I say all of this because the Steam summer sale is about to start in a few days. Now, if you watch the channel, you know I am a huge proponent of wait to buy games until they are on sale or unless you can get them at a great used price. There are some new titles. It's very well worth buying them at launch. But if you can pick and really limit the amount of those new full price titles and start building up a nice wish list, a good catalog in your brain of the titles you're okay to wait for to pick up on sale or to pick up used, you can enjoy this hobby for a whole lot less, and I guarantee you it will help with the problem I'm describing in this video. Because when you build out a backlog, when you go through one of these sales and you buy all of these games, you immediately are sort of creating in your mind this unspoken commitment that you are going to play and maybe finish those games. And for every game that you start and don't finish, every game that you buy and don't play, it creates a task, an obligation in your mind. And the more obligations and half unfinished tasks that you have going, the harder it is to make a decision. They've talked about this a bunch with like work and real life experiments where if you have lots of hanging threads, unfinished tasks in your mind, it can lead to analysis paralysis, indecision, all of these weird emotions. And it's so funny because we're talking about video games. Why would you feel guilt over video games? Well, I'm gonna share something. There will always, in the world of media, be the new hotness. There will always be a new, crazy cool game coming out. Sometimes there'll be longer droughts in between them than others, but that's the nature of this industry. There's always going to be that new, cool, flash-in-the-pan game that all your friends jump on board. They tell you, you've got to try it. This is amazing. Oh, we're going to be playing this forever. And then the trend moves on in a few months. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying those games. There's also the games that are the new hotness that last a very long time and maybe is your new like centerpiece hub game that you play. Nothing wrong with playing those titles. But also finishing a game does take a certain amount of commitment. It takes a certain amount of work. I think it's very similar if you know anybody in your life who buys a ton of books and doesn't finish those books. How about you? Do you have books that you've bought in the past that you've never finished? Some part of gaming is a commitment and knowing what you're getting into. And this is why I really think it is good to make a plan of attack, twofold for upcoming sales like the Steam sale, and then also for your backlog itself. When it comes to games that you're interested in, just start keeping a list. Steam does a good job with the wish list setting for building these things out. You get notified when they go on sale. I would encourage you, if you're on PC, start building that wish list right now because that Steam summer sale is coming soon. And then you can really quickly and easily see, okay, for $60 right now on the sale, I can leave with 10 games that I really wanted. Whereas if I tried to do this outside of the Steam sale, it would cost me, 5 times the cost. If you're on another platform, I know Xbox and PlayStation have somewhat their own features, but I think keeping a spreadsheet is a good way to go. Maybe it's just a notepad or Just taking a little text edit thing on your computer, whatever's simple and easy to keep track of it, get it out of your head, and then pull up that list when those big seasonal sales arrive. Now, when it comes to defining like what you want to play, number one, games are supposed to be fun. And when we're attacking games like it's work and assigning our time and how we want to spend it, it can get pretty silly really quickly. Let's be honest, this is a very chill, relaxing hobby, or it should be. It shouldn't cause you guilt and you shouldn't be approaching it like an accountant. For some people, that is a good play. For me, that's not the case. For somebody like me, I just have a text edit notepad page that keeps a list of the games that I'm interested in playing right now. I like to look up how long it takes to beat some of those games, so I've got a good sense of what I'm getting into before I choose to commit to one of those games. Sometimes games can take me years to complete. Persona 5 took me over 2 years of off and on playing to finish that game. It was over 100 hours for that playthrough, which is like, for me, that is a ton of time spent on a game. But it was well worth that long-term commitment. But anytime I would just get bored or kind of sick of it, I would put the game down for a few months. I remembered, okay, this is something I want to finish, and I'd return to it when I felt like it. Whereas sometimes there's games like Portal 2 where you can just smash through that thing really quickly. I've been going through Mass Effect 2 again, and it's a game that I know how long it takes to beat. I've played through it quite a few times, but it is also going to be a slow burn kind of game in the background. There is a really good sense of accomplishment ticking off games in your backlog, finishing them if you enjoyed them, and closing that thread out. There's also a really good sense of closure if you play a game and you don't like it, to just stop playing it. Maybe make a note for yourself, wasn't having fun, maybe I'll come back, maybe I won't. But you're giving yourself that permission to recognize, I don't have to complete everything I start. I love Xbox Game Pass, and I also really don't like it at the same time, because I feel like for this problem in particular, it can be so easy to get overwhelmed. Since there is no real commitment beyond the subscription price, it's really easy to start and try a ton of different games, which is fantastic, but it also can be almost impossible to try and finish those, especially if your gaming time is limited. I am much more of a fan like buying a used game if you're on the console side, or buying it on sale for the PC, owning it, and then you can go back and finish it whenever you want, instead of this problem just going on for months and months and months, and before you know it, you've spent hundreds of dollars on Game Pass, and you could have bought so much more on like a Steam sale or one of these big publisher sales. And this is why this topic is so complex, and I think it impacts everybody, because yeah, there is this sense of guilt of putting more on your plate before you've finished what you started, and going out and buying more and more, and before you know it, you've just got a backlog that's massive, and it can feel like so much untapped value, things that you've left on the table and you haven't really gotten to enjoy just yet. But at the same time, it's also okay to try something, you didn't enjoy it, and don't play it again. This is one of the sides of the console market that I still really enjoy, because you can sell your physical game if you've got it online at a secondhand market. You didn't love it, but maybe somebody else will, and you can recoup some of that cost. And the last thing I just want to mention, and I think is really important, is you've got to be really nice to yourself. Everybody is super stressed, I feel like, post-COVID. I don't feel like life has really gone back. It does seem like the pressure cooker is on. Cost of living is absolutely nuts. And so every ounce of spare time, I feel like people are trying to get the absolute most of it, squeezing that orange as tight as possible. And you got to look at yourself and really honestly question, like, am I putting too much pressure on me through this hobby that's supposed to be fun? It's totally okay to get to one of these sales and go, you know what? Nothing this year. There's a lot of stuff that I want to finish out. Or my budget going into this sale is $20, no more. Anything else, I will wait till I wrap up more of my backlog. I will say, and maybe we'll talk about it more in a future video, organizing your backlog, just having a sense, writing down kind of what you're interested right now with, can help a bunch. It can also be really fun to go back and look at that backlog and see what you've finished and what you've accomplished, what you like and what you didn't like. Ultimately, I think it just comes down to being aware and kind to yourself. If any of this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your story down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe for more, and we'll see you again very soon.